Hello and welcome to Camp Xbox. Movie games are usually considered awful, yet as a movie and game fan, I am fascinated by them. I don't think all are awful, there are some amazing ones, but personally, I do love bad movie games that no one remembers. Surprisingly, the Xbox Live Arcade is chock full of movie games that I find weird. Movies that didn't need games or movie games no one talks about. So today, let's dig into 5 weird movie games from the XBLA that I'm sure many of you out there didn't know existed or completely forgot about. All footage was captured off of an Xbox 360, and I want to thank my YouTube channel members for their support. Let's go ahead and hop into this one. First up is R.I.P.D. the game, based on the Ryan Reynolds and Jeff Bridges movie of the same name from 2013. This is the only movie today that I had not seen previously. R.I.P.D. was one I skipped back in the day, but it's interesting looking back at it. It was estimated to have a budget of $130 to $150 million, and it only made $78 million at the box office, which would be a success for many movies, but with a budget that high, this one was a bomb. I actually watched it to prepare for this game, and it's not good. I liked some of the performances, like Bridges and Parker, who are having fun with the material, but Ryan Reynolds in the lead is miserable, and it's all fairly uninteresting. I find it odd when a flop gets a game, but this game is a bigger flop than the movie. R.I.P.D. is a horde mode shooter, primarily focused on multiplayer. You can play it alone, but you'll mainly want to play it online or locally with a co-op partner. It makes sense since the movie is about a police team pairing. 2 cops who died in order to make it to heaven must hunt down those escaping hell on Earth. In this game, you are hunting deados, and they are coming at you. Equipped with guns, you mow them down, and you do this in waves, ending with a boss. There is a light plot told in a comic book cutscene, since this was originally a comic, but after that, it's all gameplay and it's very basic. You just shoot at enemies coming at you with barely any variety. Sometimes you might arrest an enemy, but otherwise it's just shooting. This is a time in gaming where horde modes were a huge hit, so many games copied that. To varying degrees it can work, but this one is poorly put together. For one, the frame rate is miserable in this game. This is the type of game where if there are too many enemies on the screen, it's going to chug. It makes camera movement and aiming a pain, and it's not fun to look at. This game already just doesn't look great, which by XBLA standards in 2013, it didn't have to look amazing, but the whole game just feels reused with nothing new. Throw bad frame rate on that, and you have an ugly mess. I guess Ryan Reynolds and Jeff Bridges look okay, and I do find it funny just how well Bridges is moving around in this game, dodge rolling everywhere. The shooting is fine, and the game spices it up a bit, allowing you to get new powers the more deados you kill in a row. Things like placing down a turret, healing yourself, or the max level move, which allows you to kill groups of enemies with vines. These are nice ways to spice up the game, but I found it too easy to earn these points, to the point where you might as well save it for that max move, because it gives you plenty of points back. Other than that, you kill boring enemies over and over with a time limit that is barely limiting. It never felt tense to me at any point. It all makes the gameplay boring, and a boring game is a bad game. Between matches you get some XP to level up, but it never changes the fundamental gameplay. This is a game that might be decent with another player. A game with a friend is always a little bit better, but there are so many better multiplayer options on the Xbox Live Arcade, and not just that, there is so many better horde games there too. R.I.P.D. is exactly the movie game stereotype. It's an uninteresting cash grab, yet with the movie being a bomb, I imagine many people didn't pick this one up, and it's one that I cannot recommend. Next is the Warriors Street Brawl. So many of you might know of the Warriors game that came out in the 6th generation made by Rockstar Games, a shining example of a good movie game. Expanding the movie's universe, showing off the iconic moments, and having all the characters you love. Not only that, it was just a fun action game. It's based off of the 1979 classic movie, The Warriors, which happens to be one of my all-time favorite movies, with incredible music, cinematography, and a simple yet gripping story of a gang running, trying to get home, while the whole city is trying to kill them. So I understand why the Warriors Street Brawl exists. It's a property that already worked well as a game, so why not try it again? Yet this one flew way under the radar in its 2009 release on the Xbox Live Arcade and had no affiliation with Rockstar in any way. This is a beat-em-up game, kind of like the original, but it's more like a classic retro beat-em-up. This game follows the movie fairly closely, starting where the film begins. The Warriors are going to peace talks, and the leader of the negotiations is shot and killed. They are blamed, and you get to pick from members of the Warriors and a few other special characters. You fight off other gangs, moving from level to level, location to location. You get cutscenes featuring the gang members talking to each other in a comic book style. And though the Warriors is based on a 1960s book, not a comic book, comics heavily inspired the movie, and in the director's cut, there are comic-like transitions that were added in. And I don't recommend that cut at all, but it does allow the comic cutscenes to make more sense here, though I still don't like them. They look like film stills with a bad comic book filter. They are pretty ugly overall. The game though looks fine, and it at least runs well, and the characters' likenesses are there. There is a variety of locations that you get to go through. It's all fairly simple. You move from left to right in most of these areas, and you fight enemies that come at you. Sometimes this changes. It might allow you to take a shortcut between areas, but those shortcuts still use the same basic level style. If you've played a beat 'em up before, you know what to expect here. You fight with a combination of punches and kicks at a bunch of different enemies. This is more realistic, so you aren't going to see a lot of speed or crazy moves. It's just kicking and punching and a rage mode where you deal a bit more damage. It's repeated for a fairly long campaign with long missions, so you can see why this game was overlooked and was reviewed quite poorly. It's just not that interesting. The gameplay is dry. It's not necessarily bad, it's not glitchy or anything, it's just not fun. The combat is slow and you fight the same enemies over and over, and there's not much going on here. Beat 'em ups have gameplay that repeats, and that's a part of the genre, yet it needs that extra touch to make the gameplay a bit better. Some kind of fun moves or fun leveling system, yet this is devoid of that. You just fight for hours, and nothing really fun ever happens. Once again, multiplayer is a huge hook with this one with local and online play, yet there are better beat 'em ups on the XBLA. Just look at a great game like Castle Crashers. That has style, and somehow Warriors, being based off of a very stylish movie, can't manage to get a game here with a bit of style. The one place it does well in is the music, which does come from the movie. It's not cheesy or in your face. The Warriors has a very dark, ambient electronic sound, and it gives this game a dark tone. I don't know if it's the right choice for excitement, yet I like the authenticity and the tracks are really pretty. So unlike R.I.P.D, I don't think this game is necessarily bad, but it is pretty boring. Just a plain and flat game coming from a movie that is neither of those things. It feels like they were riding a bit of the steam off of a great movie game, and this one got overshadowed for a reason. Once again, it's one that is not worth checking out. Next is Pacific Rim from 2013, based on the movie of the same name from the great director Guillermo del Toro, one of that year's huge movies with a $190 million budget, and it made over $400 million. I remember a good amount of people loving this movie when it first came out, and I was really excited for it, and I saw it in the theater, and to be honest with you, I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it either. I haven't seen it since, but I know it's a movie that resonates with many, with its kaiju style and monsters versus mechs storyline that would work really well for a game. Going into this game, I did not know what to expect, but I was expecting more plot, which you almost get none of here. There is no voice work or cutscenes. You get some text that sets up the world that is in fear of kaijus, and they have made mechs to fight back. There's no fluff, and this game is all gameplay. Pacific Rim is a fighting game where you can play as a bunch of different kaiju or mechs, and you fight against each other in these giant arenas. One major point for this game is that it's a good-looking XBLA game. The scale of the stages is really nice, where you do feel giant against tiny backgrounds, and I love the bit of terrain variety, with some stages fully submerged in water, and some others letting you you move between water and land. The fights feel giant, and that's what's important in a game like this. This fighting game has you throwing out quick hits with each character using both X and Y, and then there's a longer but harder hitting move with B. You can block and dodge, so I'd say it's close to a normal 3D fighting game. It's just a lot slower. Don't start mashing buttons or trying combos. It's a slow, methodical fighter asking you to hit and anticipate the next button press. It almost feels like it's timed like some phone fighting games that I've played in my time, but that's not a problem here. A kaiju game would be a bit slower, and I don't think it ruins any of the fun. It actually makes it a bit more strategic in the end. It also makes it a bit tough. I thought this game was hard, and a lot of fights came down to the wire, which was more entertainment than I was expecting out of this game. There's other really cool small elements here, such as mechs having 2 pilots with different health bars, so one can be knocked out and you can stay on, but you're going to have a more limited moveset. You also have a character customizer that allows you to design your own mech and send them out into fights. You unlock parts and upgrades for your characters, so you get a lot of customization out of this game, something I really wasn't expecting. Throw in some online play and you have a recipe for a pretty entertaining fighting game. Now, I will say this game is lacking in variety or a lot to do. It doesn't give you a ton of content, but what it gives you is at least a good time. I came out of this one having some light fun with it. It's definitely not a must play, but I think you can have a good time with it. Expendables 2 The Game is up next. This one came out in 2012 to coincide with the action movie sequel to The Expendables, an all-out action movie that was a huge hit at the box office, which makes sense. It's like the action movie version of Super Smash Bros., featuring some of the largest names in the action movie world. As many of them were aging, it felt like a last hurrah for many in the movie, even though they would make 2 more after this. Last time I saw this one was in the theater, and I remember it being fun. If you like a dumb action flick, you'll have a good time. So the game really doesn't have to do a lot to capture that kind of turn your brain off magic, but we do have a mixed bag here. First off, you get to play as 4 characters from the movies. Terry Crews and Dolph Lundgren both come in to do their own voice work for their characters, but Jet Li and Sylvester Stallone do not. And the guy they got to voice Stallone gives one of the laziest yet funniest Stallone impressions I've ever heard. They don't even try. It sounds like a cheap comedy club impersonation, but to be honest with you, it made me laugh.
Some damn fine farm country down there.
Since when are you interested in agriculture, Caesar?
I grow a mean jalapeno.
Brother, anything you grow would be mean.
This game is a prequel to the movie, giving some background to the movie's plot. There are plenty of cutscenes and plenty of missions to do. If you're looking for a game with a lot of content, then you got that here. I just can't necessarily say that it's all fun. Yes, this is another game in the mix today that just feels bland. Not necessarily as poorly put together as something like R.I.P.D, but just kind of a filler game. I was interested in it at first because it is a top-down shooter. You swap between any of the characters at any time and you shoot out enemies. I do like that there is variety with each character all having their own weapons and ways to level up, and they do get more powerful. You can use pistols with Stallone, but my favorite was Crews, who has a grenade launcher and a shotgun. You go through each level shooting hordes of enemies, and when I say hordes, I mean it. This game is slow because you are constantly stopping and fighting bland shooting enemies. It's fine at first, but there is not variety in anything you do. You walk, shoot, and sometimes chuck a grenade. Surprisingly, many of the enemies are bullet sponges, and it gets really annoying for 20-minute plus long levels. There is no brevity in any part of this game. You never feel strong, so it just feels tiring. They attempted something here, and I don't think it's awful. I do like the look of the levels, and it tried to make every level feel sprawling with many places to go, but in a way, it also feels stretched thin. Luckily, the characters all feel different enough to keep this game always feeling fresh in some way, but it just isn't entertaining enough. Though this is another multiplayer game today, like everything else here, so there is at least a little injection of fun. This one is disappointing because The Expendables could have been a really fun action game. Maybe a cool over-the-top first-person shooter, but what we get here is a bit tired and nothing I would recommend.
My intel is that he's involved with the same group that kidnapped our target. He's running some kind of operation out of a factory up ahead.
The final game today is Watchmen: The End is Nigh. I'm going to be talking about parts 1 and 2 here as a whole, though the stories differ. They do play quite similarly. This was originally released for the Xbox Live Arcade, but it did see physical releases. It was a tie-in to the 2009 Zack Snyder Watchmen adaptation of the graphic novel. I love the graphic novel, and the movie was really solid too, and I don't think the game lives up to either of them, but I do believe Watchmen is ambitious in some way. For one, the plots are outside the comics and movies before they made all those extra Watchmen comics. It follows both Rorschach and Night Owl. Part 1 is set in 1972 and is a huge story uncovering a plot about silencing the Watergate scandal getting out, something that is interesting in building up the Watchmen universe and is my preferred plot. The second game has you following a young kidnapped girl being thrown into a seedy underworld of adult films. This plot feels more like an afterthought and is much smaller in scale, but I do like that they tried something new, and I also enjoy that it features motion comic cutscenes which really work and give it that Watchmen flair to make it feel closer to the source material. Yet they do have the movie ties with Patrick Wilson and Jackie Earle Haley coming in to reprise their roles, yet the writing doesn't help them. I did a full review of this one a while ago, and I remember thinking that their performances were bad, but I really don't think that's it because they're both good actors. I think it's more of an issue with the writing. I don't think the writing captures the essence of either character, especially Rorschach, and it comes off quite stilted and lame at times. Yet the composer from the movie does return, and I can say his music work does make this game a class act in terms of sound. The gameplay is a step up from most of this list today and feels the closest to a real AAA game, but still has a bit of that arcade cheapness. End is Nigh is a beat-em-up game similar in vein to Arkham Asylum, where enemies come at you and you have to mix hits and blocks in a timed manner to keep combos going and take out enemies. There is no counterattacking, so it doesn't have that fluid feel of movement like the Batman games, but it still feels fun enough. I personally love the ability to toss enemies. The ragdoll physics in this game is awesome, and it's easily where I got the most entertainment out of this game. This is another game today that suffers in the frame rate department, where it has lots of moments that chug, especially in Part 2. Part 2 overall has a worse look due to less variety in locations, where Part 1 has you scouring the city and you see a lot of different locales, but Part 2 just takes place in boring, seedy buildings. I think this is one of the better games on today's list, but it's still not perfect. It needed more time fixing the frame rate and writing, and then I think we would have had something really good. Yet, at least from a gameplay standpoint, I found it pretty fun, and I feel like most people will get a kick out of this one. Well, that wraps it up for this one. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like. It helps me out in the algorithm. Please comment below any movie games that I might have missed. I also would like to hear what your favorite movie game is. There's a lot of good ones, and I want to see some positivity after some bad games today. Please subscribe if you haven't already to keep up with retro Xbox content, and check out my second channel, Camp Extras, for more retro gaming content. And I want to give a huge shout out to my YouTube channel members. Thank you so much for your support. You really help out the channel, and I'll see you here next time at Camp Xbox.